You just spent like 3 hours of your Sunday afternoon building the ultimate email filter system. You know the feeling, right?
Oh, I know it too well. It's a very specific kind of weekend project.
Exactly. You've got your color-coded labels, the VIP sender rules, automated routing for all those newsletters. You sit back, you look at that pristine zero inbox, and you feel like an absolute productivity god.
Until reality hits.
Right. Because by Wednesday morning, the system is completely shattered and your inbox is just a chaotic war zone all over again. If you know that exact, highly specific pain, that feeling of spending hours organizing only to be overwhelmed days later, you really need to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, it is a universal frustration for basically anyone working by the screen today. We are all just trying to put Band-Aids on a dam that has already birthed.
Okay, let's unpack this because
Okay.
today we are doing a deep dive into this brilliant 2026 article by Daniel Dineshi. It's from Mailover, and it's titled, Why Email Filters Don't Work Anymore and What Does.
It's such a great piece.
It really is, and the core premise is staggering when you actually pause to think about it. We are essentially trying to manage our modern digital lives using a 2004 solution for a 2026 problem. I mean, the average professional is now receiving over 120 emails every single day.
Which is wild.
Mm.
And that sheer volume, it fundamentally changes the physics of communication. The software tools we built back in the early 2000s to handle maybe 20 or 30 emails a day, they just completely shatter under the pressure of 120.
So our mission today is to figure out exactly why those traditional filters you spent all Sunday building are now functionally useless. The author hilariously calls them digital wallpaper.
Digital wallpaper, yeah, that is painfully accurate.
Right. So we're going to look at the tech industry's sequential attempts to fix this leaking boat and then explore how artificial intelligence is shifting the entire paradigm. We're finally moving from simply sorting our mail to actually comprehending it.
Which is a massive leap.
It's huge. But before we get to the fix, we really need to understand the failure. Why did the system we trusted for over a decade suddenly just, stop working?
Right. So the author calls this the filter fallacy. We basically put all our faith in rules-based filters. But these systems have massive structural flaws when applied to modern email loads. The source breaks down 5 core reasons why this Generation 1 approach fails, starting with the manual maintenance burden.
Because life doesn't stay static.
Exactly.
You change jobs, or you take on a new project, a new client comes on board.
Or you just subscribe to a few new industry newsletters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your email patterns are constantly shifting.
Yeah.
Which means to keep a filter system actually working, you have to constantly rewrite the rules. You have to go into your settings, create a new rule for every single new sender, and decide where their messages should go. It's literally a second job that nobody signed up for.
And as a result, people just stop doing it.
Exactly. Within a matter of weeks, the rules you set up on that Sunday afternoon are completely obsolete.
I mean, it's like trying to bail out a sinking ship with a very specific, tiny spoon.
That is a great way to put it. But even if you were wildly disciplined, like updating your rules every single day, the source points out a much deeper mechanical flaw.
Okay, what's the second failure point?
Well, traditional filters are completely blind to meaning, intent, and urgency. They only see metadata.
Let's ground that term for a second. When you say metadata in this context, what are the filters actually looking at?
Think of metadata as the digital shipping label on the outside of an envelope. The filter can read the sender's address, the time it was sent, and maybe, scan for a specific keyword in the subject line.
Right.
But it has absolutely no idea what the actual letter says inside. It doesn't know if the sender is asking you to schedule a crucial strategy meeting, canceling a meeting at the last minute, or just forwarding some random notes from a webinar.
So relying on keyword filters is like hiring a mailroom clerk who isn't allowed to actually read the letters.
Yeah.
They just blindly throw any envelope with the word urgent printed on it into a red bin, completely missing the actual context of the message inside. Like, a filter treats an email with the subject line, quick question, exactly the same, whether it contains a simple 5-minute administrative task or, a massive career-altering decision from your biggest client.
What's fascinating here is that mailroom clerk analogy perfectly highlights the third reason filters fail. Let's say the clerk successfully sorts the mail into neat little color-coded piles.
Okay.
You still have to read absolutely everything. Moving an email from your main inbox to a folder called Important Clients does not tell you what action is actually required or when that action is due.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You've reorganized the pile, but you haven't reduced the size of the pile.
Exactly.
The cognitive load, like the actual time you spend reading and processing words on a screen, is exactly the same. You're just doing it across 12 different folders instead of one giant one. It gives you this incredibly dangerous illusion of productivity.
And that false sense of security leads directly to the fourth failure. The author describes this as the silent killer of filter systems.
False negatives.
Yes, false negatives. The emails that slip through the cracks because they just didn't meet the perfect criteria of your rule.
Right.
Consider the reality of modern networking. A critical deadline arrives from a brand new vendor, or a key contact emails you from a personal address you haven't seen before because, say, their corporate server is down.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Right. And that message won't match any of your meticulous sender rules. So where does it end up?
It bypasses all your priority folders and just falls into the general catch-all inbox.
Exactly. Buried underneath 50 irrelevant, unfiltered messages.
The brutal irony here is that the more you trust your elaborate filter system, the more dangerous it actually becomes. Because if you assume the filter is catching everything important, you stop checking that main inbox as carefully.
Which is how things get missed.
Yeah. I mean, missing a promotional newsletter because of a bad filter is completely harmless. But missing a major project deadline because the sender used a vague subject line that didn't trigger your keyword rule, that's a total disaster.
It really is. Which brings us to the fifth and final reason the old paradigm is dead, and that is just the sheer math.
Right. The volume.
The volume of email we receive doubles roughly every few years. If you're handling 200 unique senders a month, and each one requires a slightly different handling approach based on the project.
You'd need hundreds of hyper-specific rules.
Hundreds! With dozens of overlapping conditions just to keep your head above water.
So the system basically collapsed under its own weight.
It did.
And when systems collapse and start costing professionals massive amounts of time, the tech industry pays attention. So how did Silicon Valley try to patch this leaking boat first? Because looking at the timeline, we didn't just jump straight from 2004 keyword filters to modern AI. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please do.
Because I look at my own app stack, and tools like Superhuman, Spark, or SaneBox, they've been around for quite a while now, probably since 2015.
Yeah, that's what the article calls Generation 2, the smart inbox tools.
Right. So if these platforms have spent years using machine learning to prioritize VIPs, automatically surface the important threads, and push all the newsletters and noise to the bottom of the pile, isn't the problem kind of solved? Like, why do we need another revolution?
It's a very fair point, and those tools absolutely represented a genuine step forward. Moving from manual rules to algorithmic prioritization was a massive relief for a lot of people.
It definitely felt like an upgrade.
Because the system adapts over time by watching your behavior.
Yeah.
It notices that you always reply to your boss within 5 minutes, so it bumps your boss to the top. You don't have to write a rule for that.
Right, just feels smarter.
It is smarter.
Right.
But here is the fatal flaw with Generation 2 and why it ultimately fails to solve the 120 email a day problem. These tools help you decide what to read first, but they do not eliminate the act of reading.
We are back to the cognitive load problem.
Exactly. They're simply a much better sorting mechanism. But as we established with the mailroom clerk, the true bottleneck isn't just the order in which you open the envelopes.
Right.
The bottleneck is the sheer mental energy required to open an email, parse 3 paragraphs of text, extract the actual meaning, figure out what you need to do, and then write it down on your to-do list.
Yeah.
Generation 2 organized the pile beautifully, but the pile is still just as huge. The software still doesn't actually know what the words inside the email mean.
Because the bottleneck was the act of reading itself, the technology had to evolve past sorting. We needed a system that shifted from prioritizing text to actually comprehending it. And here's where it gets really interesting. The source dates the arrival of Generation 3 to around 2025. This is the era of the AI email secretary.
This is the massive leap Dineshi outlines. We are talking about tools like Mailover that utilize large language models. Instead of just looking at the metadata, who sent it and when the AI actually reads the body of the email, it has full reading comprehension.
Wait, pause for a second. The AI literally reads my emails. I think a lot of people hearing that are going to immediately picture a robot sifting through their private conversations.
Naturally.
Yeah, and their immediate thought is going to be about control and accuracy. Like, if I'm handing over the keys and letting a machine read my mail, how do I know it's not going to completely misunderstand the context and hide $1 million contract just because the sender phrased it weirdly?
That is the crucial difference between a Generation 1 keyword filter and a Generation 3 language model. A keyword filter is incredibly brittle.
How so?
Well, if it looks for the word contract and the sender writes agreement, the filter fails. It completely misses it. But a large language model doesn't look for specific strings of letters. It understands language contextually, much like a human brain does.
So it's looking at the relationship between the words.
Yes, it can look at two emails from the exact same person and easily distinguish the intent. For example, if an email says, "Can you review this agreement by Friday?" the AI understands that this is a concrete action item with a temporal deadline.
Right.
But if the next email says, "Here are the notes from yesterday's sync," the AI understands that this is purely informational. No action is required. And the amazing part is, it understands this context from day one without you ever having to configure a rule or train it.
Let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice, because the mechanics outlined in the source are just wild. Think about your own workflow right now. First of all, the article states, the AI keeps 88% of inbox noise entirely out of your way.
88%.
Yes.
Just gone from your immediate view.
That is staggering. And for the emails that actually do matter, it auto-categorizes threads into meaningful functional groups. We aren't talking about generic folders like important. We're talking about functional categories like bookings, finances, active conversations, and project updates.
Which is so much more useful.
It is. But the absolute best part is how it attacks that cognitive load we were talking about earlier. It generates TLDR summaries for those massive, endless reply-all threads.
Oh, anyone who has come back from a few days off to find a 40-message deep thread where half the team has chimed in knows exactly how valuable those summaries are. You don't have to read the novel, you just get the plot points.
Yes.
But I'd argue the single most powerful feature of Generation 3 is the action item extraction.
This blew my mind. Because normally you open an email, you read the whole thing, you realize your boss needs a quarterly report by next Tuesday, and then you have to switch apps and manually type that task into your to-do list.
Exactly.
The AI entirely eliminates that bridge.
It actively pulls the specific tasks buried deep inside the text and automatically attaches the deadlines to them. The result of this comprehension is that instead of opening 120 separate emails to figure out what you need to do today, you receive one single daily briefing.
Just one briefing. I mean, let's update my mailroom clerk analogy.
Move to it.
Generation 1 was the clerk throwing things in bins based on the envelope. Generation 2 was the clerk putting the envelopes from your boss on top of the pile. Generation 3 is having a chief of staff who opens every envelope, reads all the letters, throws away the junk mail, summarizes the long reports, and then hands you a single Post-it note that says, sign the Q3 budget by Thursday and review the marketing copy by Friday.
That captures the shift perfectly. You are no longer managing email. You are managing the extracted actions. And what makes this so compelling from a practical standpoint is that this isn't restricted to massive enterprise companies with huge IT budgets.
Right, it's actually accessible.
Very. According to the source, Mailover Plus offers this AI secretary functionality for $7.50 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and it works seamlessly across standard protocols like IMAP on Gmail, Outlook, iOS, and the web. The barrier to entry for this kind of comprehension is just incredibly low.
So if the software can now literally read our mail, understand the context, and extract tasks with zero manual configuration on our part, the boundary of what an inbox is even supposed to be has fundamentally shifted. We aren't just managing mail anymore. So what does this all mean? Where does this trajectory take us next?
The trajectory outlined by Dineshi is crystal clear. We moved from manual sorting to algorithmic sorting. We are currently sitting in the era of comprehension. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the very next step on this timeline, the one we are rapidly accelerating toward, is the era of delegation.
Delegation, meaning the AI doesn't just read the email and hand me a Post-it note, it actually handles the task on the Post-it note.
Exactly. Because the core building blocks for that reality already exist today. The AI can read, it understands context, it can extract the task, and thanks to generative models, it can draft a perfectly coherent response. The immediate next evolution is for the AI secretary to handle routine responses and schedule meetings entirely in the background.
So if a client emails asking for our availability next week, the AI just checks my calendar, emails them back with 3 options, books the slot they pick, and sends the calendar invite all while I am completely unaware it's even happening.
That is exactly the vision. And the author makes a crucial point here. The shift from AI reads your email to AI handles your email is no longer a theoretical research problem. We already have the baseline technology. It is purely an engineering problem now.
Really?
Yes, it's just about building the right interfaces and setting up the right permissions. The system will only escalate the complex, high-stakes decisions that require genuine human judgment to you.
Wow. The inbox essentially transforms from a destination like a place you have to constantly visit, manage, and stress over into an invisible, silent system that just works for you in the background.
It's a complete paradigm shift in how we think about digital communication.
That is an incredible journey to think about. I mean, we started this deep dive looking at those fragile 2004 style keyword filters that require constant manual babysitting and completely crumble under the weight of modern volume.
The digital wallpaper.
Exactly. And then we looked at how Generation 2 smart inboxes tried to patch the problem by giving us a nicer looking dashboard for the same broken engine, still leaving us to do all the heavy lifting of reading.
Right.
And finally, we explored this Generation 3 reality, AI secretaries that actually comprehend the context of language, hiding the noise, and giving us our time back through daily briefings and extracted action items.
It fundamentally solves the 120 email a day crisis. But looking at where this is all heading, this raises an important question.
Oh, I like where this is going.
If we are rapidly entering an era where my AI secretary reads my incoming emails just to extract the hard facts and the deadlines, and your AI secretary is the one drafting the lengthy emails you send to me,
Oh, wow, yeah.
how long until we just stop writing emails in human language altogether?
That is fascinating.
Think about the mechanics of it. Will our AI assistants eventually realize that typing out full paragraphs is basically inefficient?
Right.
Will they just start pinging raw data back and forth to each other in the background? And what happens to human pleasantries in business communication? Are we looking at the permanent death of the phrase, "hope this finds you well"?
I mean, if the receiving AI is just going to strip out the small talk to extract the task anyway, why bother wrapping it in 3 paragraphs of polite filler? The machines certainly don't care if you hope they're having a good week. They just want the data.
Exactly.
That is a brilliant and slightly surreal thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. To you listening, the next time you find yourself staring at an organized pile of hundreds of emails, I want you to really think about how much time you are actually spending reading them. Maybe it's time to let the intelligence handle the noise and finally reclaim your Sunday afternoons. Catch you next time.